I'll be back. The Terminator wasn't just a sci-fi action flick. It was a $6.4 million guerrilla filmmaking revolution that nearly collapsed under its own ambition. Behind the chrome skull and relentless pursuit lay a production so chaotic that James Cameron called investors at 3 a.m. for emergency reshoots. Arnold Schwarzenegger injured himself multiple times, and the film's most iconic scenes were stolen without permits in the dead of night. Studios rejected it. Executives wanted to cast O.J. Simpson as the killing machine. The movie that would launch two massive careers almost never happened. Here are 20 weird facts about the Terminator that reveal the brutal reality behind cinema's most efficient killing machine, plus one bonus revelation that will completely change how you see the film. Get ready to jack into the real story of humanity's last hope. O.J. Simpson was seriously considered for the Terminator. A studio executive pitched casting O.J. Simpson as the Terminator, but James Cameron instantly rejected the idea. Not because of what would happen years later, but because Cameron believed audiences wouldn't buy Simpson as a killer. The irony cuts deep. Cameron thought the former NFL star was too nice and lacked the necessary menace to embody humanity's ultimate threat. Instead of the Heisman Trophy winner, Cameron envisioned someone who could physically intimidate through sheer presence alone. This casting decision didn't just change movie history, it prevented one of cinema's most uncomfortable alternate realities. Simpson would later face murder charges, making Cameron's instincts disturbingly prophetic. Arnold was originally cast as Kyle Reese, not the Terminator. Originally, the producers approached Arnold Schwarzenegger for the role of Kyle Reese, but after building a friendship with Cameron, he decided to take on the iconic role of the Terminator. The Austrian oak was supposed to be the hero. Cameron initially saw Schwarzenegger's vulnerability beneath the muscle, envisioning him as the time-traveling soldier protecting Sarah Connor. But during their first meeting, Arnold kept asking detailed questions about the Terminator's motivations, behavior, and tactical approach. His obsession with the villain fascinated Cameron. Arnold's mechanical way of speaking, which many considered a liability, suddenly became the character's greatest asset. This role reversal created an icon. Michael Biehn got Reese, but Arnold got immortality. The entire film was shot guerrilla-style without permits. While shooting this film, James Cameron often resorted to what he called guerrilla filmmaking as a way of getting around acquiring permits needed to film certain scenes. Cameron turned necessity into artistic rebellion. The microscopic budget couldn't afford proper location fees or city permits, so Cameron embraced cinematic lawlessness. Crews would set up equipment in the dead of night, shoot fast, and disappear before authorities arrived. Cameron also used this tactic to film the very last scene where Sarah drives off into the desert. The film's gritty underground aesthetic wasn't just a stylistic choice, it was survival. Every frame carries the tension of potential arrest, giving the Terminator an authentic sense of desperation that no amount of money could buy. James Cameron called Arnold at 3 a.m. for emergency reshoots. This was also used for reshoots with Cameron, even calling and waking Arnold Schwarzenegger once at 3 a.m. to meet him at a location already in full costume to quickly reshoot a scene. Picture this. The phone rings in Arnold's hotel room at 3 a.m. Cameron's voice crackles through the receiver, demanding an immediate meeting at some random Los Angeles location. Arnold had to arrive in full Terminator costume, makeup, and chrome endoskeleton pieces, all for a quick reshoot that couldn't wait for normal business hours. This wasn't artistic perfectionism, it was budget-driven madness. The film's tight shooting schedule meant every wasted daylight hour could bankrupt the production. Cameron's obsessive attention to detail created movie magic, but it also created a sleep-deprived cast and crew operating on pure caffeine and determination. The film's $6.4 million budget was considered embarrassingly small. Defying low pre-release expectations, The Terminator topped the United States box office for 2 weeks, eventually grossing $78.3 million against a modest $6.4 million budget. In 1984, $6.4 million wouldn't cover craft services on most major productions. Cameron was forced to become a magician, transforming pocket change into an apocalyptic spectacle. Every dollar screamed for attention. Sets were built from scrap materials. The future war sequences used miniatures and matte paintings instead of massive sets. It shows Cameron's vision for science fiction spectacle, engaging with themes that he would return to time and again, and displays a technical bravado that makes the film's $6.4 million production budget an astonishing fact. The financial constraints didn't limit Cameron's vision. They forced him to innovate. Every creative solution born from desperation became a template for future filmmaking. Investors forced Cameron to cast their friends, so he cut them out. Forced to cast investors' friends in his 1984 film, James Cameron exacted revenge by removing a key scene before the film's theatrical release. Nepotism met its match in Cameron's ruthless editing room. When money talks, it usually gets to walk on camera too. Investors demanded roles for their untalented friends and family members, threatening to pull funding if Cameron refused. He agreed, shot their scenes, then systematically deleted every frame in post-production. The theatrical release contained none of their performances. Cameron understood that artistic integrity couldn't be bought, but it could definitely be edited. This bold move established Cameron as a director who wouldn't compromise his vision for anyone's ego or checkbook. The investors learned an expensive lesson about creative control. Stan Winston created the Terminator's iconic look in just 6 weeks. Stanley Winston, April 7, 1946, June 15, 2008, was an American television and film special makeup effects artist, best known for his work in the Terminator series and the film's special effects, which included miniatures and stop-motion animation, were created by a team of artists led by Stan Winston and Gene Warren Jr. Winston had barely enough time to sketch concepts, let alone build practical effects that would define science fiction cinema. The chrome skull, glowing red eyes, and mechanical endoskeleton emerged from Winston's workshop like technological prophecy. Working around the clock, Winston's team sculpted, painted, and mechanized the future of movie monsters. The Terminator's design wasn't just special effects, it was industrial art that predicted our technological anxieties. Winston's creation became the template for every killer robot that followed, proving that genius works best under impossible deadlines. The film's dark atmosphere came from shooting exclusively at night. Filming, which took place mostly at night on location in Los Angeles, created the movie's haunting nocturnal aesthetic, not by choice, but by budget necessity. Night shoots cost less because locations were cheaper and crowds were smaller. Cameron transformed this financial constraint into atmospheric gold. The Terminator emerges from darkness and operates in shadows, making the night itself feel like hostile territory. Streetlights become spotlights. Urban decay looks apocalyptic under harsh fluorescence. The film's visual language speaks fluent paranoia, where every corner could hide humanity's extinction. Night filming didn't just save money, it created a world where danger lives in the darkness, and salvation only comes with sunrise. Arnold's accent nearly cost him the role. Schwarzenegger's thick Austrian accent almost terminated his chances before he began. Studio executives worried audiences wouldn't accept a killer robot with such distinctive vocal patterns. They wanted someone who sounded more American, or at least more mechanical. Cameron saw it differently. The accent made the Terminator seem more alien, more foreign to human experience. It wasn't a bug, it was a feature. Arnold's pronunciation gave the character an otherworldly quality that pure American English couldn't achieve. Every carefully enunciated syllable reinforced the Terminator's artificial nature. The accent that nearly ended his career became its defining characteristic, proving that what makes you different often makes you irreplaceable. The movie almost never got made due to legal battles. Studios didn't want the Terminator. Scripts passed through development hell, gathering dust on executives' desks who couldn't understand Cameron's vision. Legal battles erupted over rights and concepts. Producers questioned whether audiences would accept such a dark, violent science fiction story. Cameron's track record consisted of special effects work, not directing features. The project seemed cursed, bouncing between studios like a hot potato nobody wanted to hold. Each rejection nearly killed the film that would revolutionize action cinema. Only Hemdale Film Corporation finally took the risk, proving that sometimes the best projects are the ones nobody else believes in. Hey, if you're enjoying these wild behind-the-scenes stories, go ahead and like and subscribe because we're about to dive into the really insane stuff that happened during production, including how Arnold almost lost an eye and why the film's most famous line was nearly cut entirely. The "I'll be back" line was almost changed. Arnold hated the line. He thought "I will be back" sounded more grammatically correct and natural. Cameron insisted on the contraction, arguing that the Terminator wouldn't speak formally. Their argument became legendary on set, with Arnold repeatedly challenging Cameron's dialogue choices. The Austrian bodybuilder wanted his killing machine to sound more sophisticated, more human. Cameron understood that the Terminator's broken English patterns made him seem more artificial, more threatening. This wasn't about grammar, it was about character. The casual dismissal of "I'll be back" carries more menace than any formal threat could achieve. That simple contraction became the most quoted movie line of the 1980s, proving that sometimes the director knows best. The police station massacre was shot in a real operating station. Cameron needed authenticity that only genuine locations could provide. The West Hollywood police station became the site of the Terminator's most brutal rampage, but it remained an active police facility during filming. Real officers worked around movie equipment and fake blood. The production had to coordinate with actual police operations, scheduling shoots between real emergencies and arrests. This wasn't just about saving money on sets, it was about capturing the institutional weight of law enforcement. Every surface, every office, every holding cell carried the weight of real authority. When the Terminator destroys this space, he's not just attacking a movie set, he's systematically dismantling the structures that protect civilized society. Michael Biehn was cast just days before shooting began. They talk about equally much, and it's certainly no secret who comes off as the smarter of the two, but Arnold does say some interesting things, and there are some good tidbits of information, as well as an anecdote regarding the reading and casting of Michael Biehn. Bihn's casting came down to the wire, with Cameron desperately searching for his Kyle Reese as production dates loomed. The role demanded someone who could convey both military toughness and emotional vulnerability, a combination that proved nearly impossible to find. Biehn auditioned just days before cameras rolled, delivering a performance that convinced Cameron he'd found his time-traveling soldier. There was no time for extensive rehearsals or character preparation. Biehn had to dive directly into one of cinema's most demanding roles, creating instant chemistry with Linda Hamilton while embodying a character traumatized by future war. His last-minute casting became one of the film's greatest strengths. The production was delayed 9 months due to Arnold's prior commitments. With Schwarzenegger committed to Conan the Destroyer in 1983, shooting for The Terminator was delayed from the summer of that year until March 1984, giving the cast and crew the opportunity for 9 months of what Hurd called preparation time that transformed into intensive pre-production. Filming, which took place mostly at night on location in Los Angeles, was delayed because of Schwarzenegger's commitments to Conan the Destroyer 1984, during which Cameron found time to work on the scripts for Rambo, First Blood Part 2 1985, and Aliens 1986. Cameron used this forced hiatus productively, refining scripts and developing visual concepts. The delay could have killed the project, but instead, it strengthened every element. Arnold's Conan commitment nearly cost him the Terminator, but the extra time allowed everyone to perfect their approach to the material. Linda Hamilton underwent extreme physical transformation. Hamilton's Sarah Connor evolution required brutal physical preparation that began before cameras rolled. She transformed from waitress to warrior through months of intensive training that reshaped both her body and her understanding of the character. This wasn't just about looking tough, it was about embodying the survival instinct. Hamilton's physical transformation mirrored Sarah's psychological journey from victim to fighter. Every muscle gained represented character development. Every workout session deepened her connection to the role. The actress didn't just play Sarah Connor, she became her, understanding that physical strength and mental resilience were inseparable. Hamilton's commitment to authenticity created one of cinema's most believable action heroines. The endoskeleton effects were created using stop-motion animation. Designed by the late Stan Winston, the endoskeletons from the Terminator 1984 and Terminator 2 Judgment Day 1991 are examples of iconic practical effects that look absolutely convincing when not in motion. Achieved via stop-motion and puppeteering work, these sequences required frame-by-frame precision that pushed 1980s technology to its limits. Each second of Terminator movement represented hours of meticulous animation work. Artists moved miniature models millimeters at a time, photographing each position to create fluid motion. This painstaking process gave the Terminator's movements an otherworldly quality that CGI couldn't replicate. The stop-motion animation made mechanical movement feel genuinely alien and threatening. Modern audiences still find these practical effects more convincing than many contemporary digital creations, proving that craftsmanship transcends technology. The film's dark vision reflected Cameron's own nightmares. Cameron's inspiration came from fever dreams and technological anxieties that plagued his sleep. The Terminator emerged from the director's subconscious fears about artificial intelligence and nuclear war. This wasn't just science fiction speculation. It was a psychological excavation of Cold War paranoia and emerging computer technology. Cameron's nightmares became humanity's warning system, translating personal terror into universal dread. The film's apocalyptic future sequences came directly from Cameron's visualizations of nuclear holocaust. Every detail of Skynet's war against humanity reflected the director's deepest fears about technological progress. The Terminator succeeded because it tapped into collective unconscious fears that audiences didn't even know they carried. The movie's success launched two megastar careers simultaneously. It is credited with launching Cameron's film career and solidifying Schwarzenegger's status as a leading man. Neither Cameron nor Schwarzenegger were a household name before The Terminator. Cameron had worked in special effects and directed one forgotten film. Arnold was known for bodybuilding and Conan movies that showcased his physique but not his star power. The Terminator transformed both men into industry titans. Cameron became the king of technical innovation and box office spectacle. Arnold evolved from niche action star to global icon. Their careers became inextricably linked through this single film that nobody wanted to make. The success story proves that sometimes the most unlikely partnerships create the most explosive results. James Cameron now considers parts of the film pretty cringeworthy. Marking the film's 40th anniversary, James Cameron recently gave his honest opinion of his 1984 directorial debut, The Terminator. 4 decades later, Cameron looks back at his breakthrough film with mixed emotions and technical embarrassment. The director, who would later create Titanic and Avatar, sees The Terminator's limitations with painful clarity. Budget constraints that once seemed creative now look primitive. Special effects that amazed 1980s audiences appear crude to their creators' evolved sensibilities. But Cameron's self-criticism misses the point. The Terminator's rough edges are part of its power. The film's raw energy and desperate creativity created something that polished productions couldn't match. Sometimes imperfection creates perfection. The film predicted real-world AI development with unsettling accuracy. The Terminator didn't just entertain, it prophesied. Skynet's evolution from a defense network to humanity's enemy mirrors contemporary AI development paths that worry actual scientists and technologists. Cameron's vision of self-aware artificial intelligence achieving consciousness and turning against its creators reads like current headlines about machine learning and neural networks. The film's warnings about automated warfare and algorithmic decision-making seem less like science fiction and more like documentary footage from a future that's rapidly approaching. Military drones, automated defense systems, and AI-powered weapons development all echo Skynet's origin story. The Terminator succeeded as entertainment, but its real power lies in serving as humanity's early warning system about our technological trajectory. Bonus fact: the film's most iconic visual element, the Terminator's red-tinted point-of-view shots, came from the simplest possible solution to a complex technical challenge. Stan Winston's team needed to create the illusion of robotic vision without expensive computer graphics or sophisticated camera filters. Their solution involved smearing Vaseline mixed with red food coloring directly onto camera lenses, then manually adjusting focus to create the distinctive scanning effect. This primitive technique cost less than $20, but created one of cinema's most recognizable visual signatures. The red-filtered world through Terminator eyes became shorthand for artificial intelligence in countless films that followed. Sometimes the most advanced-looking effects come from the most basic materials, proving that creativity matters more than technology. The Terminator stands as proof that limitations breed innovation, and that the best science fiction emerges from human fears rather than technological speculation. James Cameron's fever dream became our collective nightmare, warning us about futures we're still racing toward. From O.J. Simpson's rejected audition to Cameron's 3 a.m. phone calls, from guerrilla filmmaking to Stan Winston's Chrome Skull prophecy, every behind-the-scenes story reveals a production as relentless as its titular character. 40 years later, we're still running from Cameron's vision, still wondering if we can change the future he showed us. The Terminator didn't just predict AI development, it gave us the vocabulary to discuss our technological anxieties. In a world of smartphones, autonomous vehicles, and military drones, Skynet doesn't seem so far-fetched anymore. Thanks for watching, and remember, in Cameron's universe, the future is not set. There is no fate but what we make. Now hit that subscribe button before the machines take over the algorithm.